welcome back everyone, it's me Matt. We're talking about self-propelled artillery, and today we're looking at the Polish Krab self-propelled artillery gun. But before we do, we're going to talk about our sponsor of today's video, Raid Shadow Legends. Raid Shadow Legends is a completely free-to-play RPG game providing you with hundreds of champions to collect, a super in-depth and fun battle system, amazing graphics, intense PvE boss fights, and endless content to you every single month, including one of the most requested features, Live Arena PvP. Live Arena is bringing some awesome rewards too. I'm talking new artifact sets, fragments for a legendary Void champion, special Live Arena crests that unlock powerful new bosses, and the Great Haul. And this year is the birthday for 4 years of Raid Shadow Legends, and to celebrate, they're having a dinner party. And I decided to invite Cethilia, Royal Guard, Raglan, and Herndig. And I think my favourite character that I invited to this dinner is Herndig, just like the Krab with that huge amount of firepower swinging down from above with that hammer. So with all this awesome content and various champions for you to try out, why don't you give it a try? It's free to play and so thoroughly enjoyable, and if you use my description in the link box below or scan the QR code on screen right now, you're going to get some insane bonuses. We are talking an epic champion known as Kellen the Shrike, and other useful things like energy refills, magic potions, and XP brews. So come find me in-game under the name Maximus on Raid Shadow Legends. So let's get back to talking about the Krab. Now, self-propelled artillery in the tracked configuration is certainly in the spotlight across the world and militaries around the world selecting the next generation of tracked artillery. Of course, the British artillery is transitioning the AS-90 out of service, and multiple militaries around the world are looking at their next phase of what they want to give as a tracked platform. Now, I will safely say the Krab is fairly up there in terms of people wanting to select it. The K9 Thunder, its cousin so to speak, is also very high on the margin for selecting that next generation of tracked self-propelled guns. But why? Why is it that self-propelled guns in tracked configurations are being pushed really heavily? And the Polish Krab is really a good testament as to that reasoning why. Muddy, gross terrain is not good on the battlefield for wheeled vehicles of today. Now, a lot of self-propelled platforms exist today, the Archer, the Caesar, and they're really good vehicles, but when it comes to churning through the mud, they're not doing so well. They're getting stuck. I've heard lots of reports of the Archer having real problems with that articulated system, those big heavy-duty tires, getting bogged in and even grounding out in the way in which they travel. Now, certainly tracked vehicles don't have an invincibility to mud and nasty terrain, but they do have an advantage. And when it comes to self-propelled guns with a 155mm gun like the Krab trundling across terrain, you want something that's very, very capable of doing that shoot and scoot without the fear of having your entire artillery battery getting bogged in. Now, the Krab has been around since 2012, and Poland has been producing and effectively operating these systems for quite some time. Of course, everybody believed in Ukraine that tanks were the king in the Russian-Ukraine war, but the reality is that artillery really does reign supreme, and it's imperative that Ukraine was given a new capability of self-propelled artillery that wasn't reliant upon the old-school Soviet-era artillery. And in late May of 2022, Poland had already provided Ukraine with 18 Krab self-propelled artillery howitzers, which is 3 batteries, and trained 100 Ukrainian artillerymen to work with them. That's a big game changer with having a really up-to-date modernized system like the Krab. The Krab has a crew of 5 members and a range with that beautiful 155mm gun of up to 40 kilometers. As you can see though, the Krab is also able to do direct fire capability just like the AS-90. And you're probably wondering, well, wait a minute, that turret kind of looks like the AS-90. Well, in July 1999, HSW was signing a contract with GAC Marconi for the AS-90 Braveheart. Under the contract, the AS-90 Braveheart turrets were supplied to HSW for integration into the Krab, which was the NATO standard SPH for the Polish army. The first batch of turrets were supplied by BAE Systems, and the technology was transferred to Poland to enable production of their own turrets in Poland. This is one thing I really like about this vehicle. It is produced in its own country and obviously given that both pride and financial standpoint or benefit to provide their own military equipment instead of relying upon third-party contractors and defense contracts to get their equipment. And this is something that we're seeing more and more occur around the world. A lot of trials were developed on this system in June 2001, and by November 2001, the trials were complete. The research and development phase ended with the completion of the qualification trials in 2003, and the third Krab prototype was completed by July 2011. Now, a standard battery of Krabs consists of 6 Krab self-propelled artillery howitzers with 2 ammunition resupply vehicles based on truck chassis or the Warren maintenance vehicle and the Auxilia artillery C3I vehicle. The 2011 version used the Nexta Systems barrel and the Polish UPG-NG chassis. In the 2016 production batch, which was utilized by Hanwha Defense, the K9 chassis was the KMW Nexta Defense Systems long gun with a Rheinmetall barrel and the STX engine MTU Frechtschaufel engine. And as of 2016, full rate production of 120 Krabs were given to the Polish army and have completed their deliveries by the end of next year. As of 2019, Huta Stalowa Wola, or HSW, started using barrels of their own manufacture in successive production batches, which goes back to my previous point of they have refined the design and manufacture of this equipment so that if they need to ramp up, if necessary, in Poland to produce a lot more of these vehicles, it's going to be a lot easier for them to do. Now, the primary armament is that 155mm 52 caliber gun. The gun can fire NATO projectiles up to a range of 40 kilometers, but as we know, that can be extended with a range of different NATO ammunitions, and around 40 rounds of ammunition are stowed inside the turret and the chassis. The turret is mounted with a 12.7mm machine gun, serving as that secondary armament for potential engagements if infantry are kind of testing the battery's capabilities, but its mobility is really what steps aside across some of the other platforms out there today. I love the Paladin and I love the S90, but the Krab's mobility is second to none. It is powered by an S12U 4-stroke 12-cylinder multi-fuel water-cooled turbocharged diesel engine. Impressively, this vehicle can travel at maximum speeds of up to 60 to 65 km an hour on surface roads and has a maximum range of 650 km with full fuel tanks. Additionally, off-road it can travel up to 40 to 45 km an hour, which is pretty damn fast considering you're talking about a 155mm gun on top of the platform. The system also has some pretty interesting electronics to allow it to observe and control and fire into indirect fire very quickly. There is a direct fire sight and laser rangefinder that is fitted with coaxially to the main gun, and the vehicle also integrates a navigation system and the DD9620 terminal providing target information. That is key. Okay, you want a system that's able to quickly engage targets, shoot and move again. And the system of course does have muzzle velocity measuring systems above the main gun feeds, which give information to the very complex fire control system that is linked to the rest of the battery. The ZZKO Topaz fire control system controls the turret, gun laying computer and other subsystems. The auxiliary power unit of the turret ensures operation of the onboard systems during shutdown of the main diesel engine, which is really important. I know that sounds kind of ridiculous, well, it's just an APU. When a battery is running main engines, it is loud, especially if you have a large battery of 6 or 7 of these things. You want to have silent running APUs to give you that power inside the turret at a more quiet level, because yes, I know you're going to say, well Matt, they're firing huge gun rounds downrange. Yes, but once they've laid onto the target, they're going to do that and fire. Before that, you want as much quiet as you can, especially on night firing. You can hear engines from a mile away. It's really important those APUs are able to maintain that power to the turret and the systems to allow it to keep going. Now, the vehicle is beefy. It weighs around 52 tons, and considering you're looking at, the battlefield capabilities of maneuverability, it then does inherently restrict you from crossing things like bridges and things like that. Now, the breech there is a semi-automatic shutter with a vertical wedge, and loading is a separate use of a mechanical rammer. It has around 29 shots that can be fired in quick succession, normally of a rate of fire of around 3 shots in 10 seconds, and it also has the fire from the ground or from the hatch being open from the rear, which allows the fighting compartment to basically reload if necessary for prolonged shooting. But when you do have that prolonged shooting, you're dropping your rate to around 2 rounds a minute due to the nature of the barrel getting extremely hot and accuracy is affected. The Krab is definitely very good at being able to calculate its sensory systems to satellite navigation systems and communications that connected to the MSA. Preparation for combat work arriving at the position normally takes around 30 seconds, which is pretty impressive. The advantages of the Krab really include that high mobility and speed of preparation for firing in a position of a successful long-range gun. All this means that the self-propelled guns can quickly enter a firing position, strike and turn off, reducing the risks of retaliatory fire. The entire technical potential of self-propelled guns can be realized using modern reconnaissance equipment and control loops. However, the Ukrainian army that have had these vehicles is unlikely to really be able to use the full capabilities of the Polish self-propelled guns. Thus, the received self-propelled guns will be more than enough of only a few batteries, which, even due to their numbers, will not affect a huge amount of capability on the battlefield because they're just not refined as much in their training and the other systems that link to these guns. The questions are raised by the level of training the crews have had that may not be completed in the full course of training. In addition, there may be problems in the operation and supply of these systems due to being repaired, whether it be power packs or supply chain getting parts to the front line. It's really difficult. You can't just give vehicles to a nation and expect them to just be like, okay, go shoot stuff. They need stuff. They need equipment and support and resources to keep them going, and that's just as difficult as actually getting the vehicle operational. With all this, the new combat vehicles will face the same risks as any other equipment of the Ukrainian army, especially of that of the old equipment that they have. There's not a huge amount of change there. The Russian armed forces have lots of different means to detect and destroy these kind of targets, and even potentially fire on them before they get to a position. Yes, there's been situations heard, and I'm not sure how accurate they are, of systems that are being tracked and preparing firing data using that satellite, somewhat being jammed or, so to speak, hacked, and the vehicles pulling in and being engaged before rounds even get put down range, which is kind of scary. How accurate are those clones? Probably not, and it's hard to tell. I mean, there's a lot of stories of misinformation going around there, but it has been noted in a couple of articles that I've read of systems being traced for firing data before they even get to their location, and when they park up preparing to fire, they're then engaged with counter battery before a round even goes down range. But what's so special about the Krab? Well, the reality is not a whole amount. It is a standardized, tracked, self-propelled artillery gun with a 155mm gun. That's not a huge change to what's already existing out there, but what is a little bit unique about this vehicle is, again, as I mentioned, it's produced primarily in Poland, so that if there is that ramp up, it's ready to go on the industry and supply chain to produce them. It's kind of interesting that a lot of them were given to Ukraine, and I think a big part of that development process is testing them with a warfighting force, and as I mentioned, Poland did not get a huge amount of interest in this platform when they proposed it to other nations around the world. It seems like the K9 Thunder, which is very close to the Krab, is getting more of a showcase. Why is that? Well, we're going to talk about that in a later video when I produce a video on the K9 Thunder, but I truly do feel like the Krab is a very capable self-propelled gun. It does have that advanced tracking system or targeting system to provide them quick shoot and scoot capabilities, and of course also direct fire capability, which is very useful when we're talking about modern battlefields that at any time targeting could change from indirect to direct fire. I do have a strong interest in self-propelled artillery, and I would love to see, Canada pulling in some Krab, SPGs, or even the K9 Thunder, or we'll take over the AS-90s, leave them with us, we'll take them off your hands, Brits. But I really do feel that the Krab is a sustainable artillery piece for Ukraine and for, obviously, Poland, and we'll see what its future determines as we go. I mean, are they going to produce more? Hard to say. I think they're probably going to start looking now at the rocket artillery side more for Poland than they are SPGs, but let's see how it goes. I hope you enjoyed today's video, folks. Please leave me a like and hit that subscribe button if you enjoyed the video. Of course, check my description box below for all my other little links, and thank you to all who's been supporting me on Patreon and PayPal, and I will see you on the next video. All the best, folks. Bye-bye.